mentioned sharing and showing value to people, or how did you, and maybe especially now as you look at it as an executive leader, how would you suggest young people who are in that first or second role show value to their manager?
Well, look, it starts with some of the basics of professionalism. And I have a son who's about to go to college and needs to learn some of these things. So it's all good. But, show up on time, do what you say you're going to do. If you need to change, you can't achieve something you thought you could, make it clear, be honest about that. These are kind of basic things, but it really goes a long way because you're shocked at how many folks don't kind of show up with that kind of integrity even later in their careers. So if you do that from day one, you're already on a good path. And then basically, like, for example, I tried to take on a lot of extra projects that weren't really assigned to me, but no, I'd ask, is it okay if I do this? For example, working on a new branching strategy in computer, and how we store our code for. And the reason I was interested in that is I heard my peers complaining about it. It was a problem that they had, the people I was sitting next to that they had. And so I thought, okay, I want to help out with them. I like these people, I want to make their daily work better. So if you can find, do your job, always deliver, and be honest about when you can't, and then find extra ways to kind of add value, bring ideas, that sets you on a really good footing early in the career.
So, as you progressed in your career at Oracle, I thought was interesting too was, which I think was interesting timing, moving over to product management, because I think that's really when, like the 2008s, 10s, that's really when, it's really born, right? Is this kind of, I mean, it always been around, but like product management really started to take hold. What did you experience, like kind of when you became more of a product manager, and how do you draw the distinction between that and like more of an engineering role?
Product management is about, meeting the needs of the customer, understanding them in a way that they may not even articulate clearly, right? And then figuring out how to meet those needs in product. So it's like a puzzle. I've always loved puzzles. And it's also, there's a fair amount of creativity in product management. And so that was really the pull. And I think what happens now, again, with AI, is that product managers, people with ideas, people who see an unmet need, whatever it is, are more able to kind of directly influence that because they're less dependent on translating their ideas into specs and then relying on somebody else to actually implement it, which has always been the way it works.
It's so easy to kind of like drop relationships as you move on to other things, but I think this is a really big testament of like how important it can be in someone's career to have those strong relationships, and how it kind of, even though Silicon Valley is big, I mean, companies are tens of thousands of people. There's, 3 dozen like that. There's another, few thousand startups, right? That it's really fascinating that it always kind of comes back around. So I was wondering if you could talk a bit about that too.
It does come back around for sure. And, to be very frank, I am not the best at nurturing. Like some people really set themselves out to, kind of network relationship build, etc. I found for me what was the most valuable is just to make sure that I had a reputation I was proud of. It whenever it was, even what seemed like a small interaction, and that I would leave someone else I was interacting with, in a better spot, or that I was straightforward, had integrity and everything. And that did multiple times come back around to benefit me, having, a reputation that I could kind of lean back on, even when I didn't have personal relationships still, because people move on and, not everyone's the same.
And then to wrap us up here, I always like to ask, if you were going back to school today, what would be one thing that you would over index on?
Studying abroad, I would have done more of for sure. I did not. And I came late in my career to kind of international experience. And I think it was lack of exposure when I was younger. You know, my parents weren't out jet setting or anything like that. So I think when you can have that, get yourself that opportunity, especially if your family didn't grow up with that, it's great.